continuing on with Warrior Cats into the Wild. One second, actually down to the right page here. So last time in Warrior Cats into the Wild, Rusty, what has met 𝓧𝔁, 𝓢𝓵, and Lionheart, and they asked him to join 𝓡𝓪𝔂𝓮. We got to learn about the 4 clans. So we'll continue on and see what Rusty will decide. Remember, the series contains blood, violence, death, and a lot more. If you are not old enough to see stuff, please leave my live. You are not ready for this because believe me, it's not just a cat series. Kind of. It does contain cats. If you don't see the damn cat here, no, Wolfie. But no, it does contain a lot of death and blood. Even though it doesn't show it, it does describe like a lot of shit. So I hope y'all are ready for this. It also contains child grooming in one of the special editions. Believe me, it does. So let's continue on. It also shows up in this book, I'm pretty sure, but hey. I don't know how I'm gonna read and hold my phone at the same time, but we will do this. 1 second, fucking hold my damn book. All right, let's go. Chapter 3. That morning, as Rusty slept off his night's wanderings, the mouse dream came again, even more vivid than before. Free of his collar, beneath the moon, he stalked a timid creature, but this time he was aware of being watched. Shining from the shadows of the forest, he saw dozens of yellow eyes. The clan cats had entered his dream world. Rusty woke, blinking in the bright sunshine that was streaming across the kitchen floor. His fur felt heavy and thick with warmth. His food bowl had been topped up, and his water bowl rinsed out and filled with bitter-tasting two-legged water. Rusty preferred drinking from puddles outside, but when it was hot or he was very thirsty, he had to admit it was easier to lap up the water indoors. Could he really abandon this comfortable life? He ate, then pushed his way out of the cat flap into the garden. The day promised to be warm, and the garden was heavy with the smell of early blossoms. "Hello, Rusty," mewed a voice from the fence. It was Smudge. "You should have been awake an hour ago. The baby sparrows were out stretching their wings." I really couldn't do any voices. I'm sorry about that. "Did you catch any?" Rusty asked. Smudge yawned and licked his nose. "Couldn't be bothered. I'd have eaten enough at home anyway. Weren't you out earlier? Why weren't you out earlier? Yesterday you were complaining about Henry sleeping his time away, and today you're not much better yourself." Rusty sat down on the cool earth beside the fence and curled his tail neatly around his paws. "I was in the woods last night," he reminded his friend. At once he felt the blood stir in his veins and his fur stiffen. Smudge looked down at him, his eyes wide. "Oh yes, I forgot. How was it? Did you catch anything? Or did anything catch you?" Rusty paused, not sure how to tell his old friend what happened. "I met some wild cats," he began. "What?" Smudge was clearly shocked. "Did you get into a fight?" Sort of." Rusty could feel the energy surging through his body again, as he recalled the strength and power of the clan cats. "Were you hurt? What happened?" Smudge prompted him eagerly. "There were 3 of them, bigger and stronger than any of us." "And you fought all 3 of them?" Smudge interrupted, his tail twitching with excitement. "No!" Rusty mewed hastily. "Just the younger one. The other 2 came later." "How come they didn't shred you to pieces?" "They wanted me to leave their territory, but then—" Rusty hesitated. "What?" mewed Smudge impatiently. They asked me to join their clan. Smudge's whiskers quivered disbelievingly. I cannot read. They did, Rusty insisted. Why would I do that? I don't know, Rusty admitted. I think they need extra paws in their clan. Sounds a bit odd to me, Smudge mewed doubtfully. I wouldn't trust them if I were you. Rusty looked at Smudge. His black and white friend had never shown any interest in venturing into the woods. He was perfectly content living with his household. He would never understand the restless longing that Rusty's dreams stirred in him night after night. But I do trust them, Rusty purred softly, and I've made up my mind. I'm going to join them. Smudge scrambled down from the fence and stood in front of Rusty. Please don't go, Rusty, he mewed in alarm. I might never see you again. Rusty nudged him affectionately with his head. Don't worry, my housefolk will get another cat. You'll get on with him just fine. You get along with everyone. But it won't be the same, Smudge wailed. Rusty twitched his tail impatiently. That's just the point. If I stay here till they take me to the cutter, I won't be the same either. And yes, I have to drop my phone and use my other hand to actually change the damn page. Sorry. Smudge looked puzzled. The cutter? He echoed. The vet, Rusty explained. To be altered, like Henry was. Smudge shrugged and stared down at his paws. But Henry's all right, he mumbled. I mean, I know he's a bit lazier now, but he's not unhappy. We could still have fun. Rusty felt his heart fill with sadness at the thought of leaving his friend. I'm sorry, Smudge. I'll miss you, but I have to go. Smudge didn't reply, but stepped forward and gently touched Rusty's nose with his own. Fair enough. I can see I can't stop you, but at least let's spend one more morning together. Rusty found himself enjoying the morning even more than usual, visiting his old haunts with Smudge, sharing with the other cats he had grown up with. Every one of his senses felt supercharged, as if he poised before a huge jump. As sunrise approached, Rusty grew more and more impatient to see if Lionheart would really be waiting for him. The idle buzz of meows from his old friends seemed to fade into the background, to all his senses strained toward the woods. Rusty jumped down from his garden fence for the last time and crept into the woods. He had said his goodbyes to Smudge. Now all his thoughts were focused on the forest and the cats who lived in it. As he approached the spot he had met with the clan cats the night before, he sat down and tasted the air. Tall trees shielded the ground from the midday sunshine, making it comfortably cool. Here and there, a patch of sunlight shone through a gap in the leaves, and it lit up the forest floor. Rusty smelled the same cat scent he had as last night. He had no idea whether it was old or new. He lifted his head and sniffed uncertainly. You have a lot to learn, yelled a deep voice. Even the tiniest clan kit knows when another cat is nearby. Rusty saw a pair of green eyes glinting from beneath a bramble bush. Now he recognized the scent. It was Lionheart. Can you tell them alone? Asked the golden tabby, stepping into the light. Hastily, Rusty sniffed again. The scents of 𝓧𝓁 and 𝓧𝓁 were still here, but not as strong as the previous night. Hesitantly, he mewed. 𝓧𝓁 and 𝓧𝓁 aren't with you this time. That's right, yelled Lionheart. But someone else is. Rusty stiffened as the second clan cat strode into the clearing. This is 𝓧𝓁, purred Lionheart, one of the ThunderClan's senior warriors. Man's old. Sorry. Rusty looked at the Tom and felt his spine tingle with cold fear. Was this a trap? Long-bodied and muscular, 𝓧𝓁 stood in front of Rusty and gazed down at him. His white coat was thick and unmarked, and his eyes were the yellow of sun-baked sand. Rusty flattened his ears warily and tensed his muscles in preparation for a fight. Relax before your fear scent brings unwanted attention, growled Lionheart. We are here only to take you to our camp. Rusty sat very still, hardly daring to breathe, as White Storm stretched his nose forward and gave him a curious sniff. Sniff, sniff. Hello, young one, murmured the white cat. I've heard a lot about you. Rusty dipped his head in greeting. Come, we can speak more once we are in the camp, ordered Lionheart, and without pausing, he and White Storm leaped away into the undergrowth. Rusty jumped to his paws and followed as quickly as he could. The two warriors made no allowances for Rusty as they sped through the forest, and before he was struggling to keep up, their pace barely slowed as they led him over fallen trees that they cleared in a single leap, but which Rusty had to scramble over by paw by paw. Blah blah blah. I can't really read. They passed through sharply fragrant pine trees, where they had to jump across steep gullies turned up by tree eaters. From the safety of his stone fence, Rusty had often heard it roaring and snarling in the distance. One gully was too wide to jump, half filled with slimy, foul-smelling water. The clan cats waded through it without hesitating. Rusty had never set a paw in water before, but he was determined not to show any signs of weakness. So he narrowed his eyes and followed, trying to ignore the uncomfortable wetness that soaked his belly fur. At last, Lionheart and White Storm paused. Rusty skidded to a halt behind them and stood panting while the two warriors stepped onto a rock and rested on the edge of a small ravine. We are very close to our camp now, yelled Lionheart. Rusty strained to see any signs of life. Moving trees, a glimpse of fur among the bushes below, but his eyes saw nothing, except the same undergrowth that covered the rest of the forest floor. Use your nose. You must be able to sense it, hissed White Storm impatiently. Rusty closed his eyes and sniffed. White Storm was right. The scents here are very different from the cat scent he was used to. The air smelled stronger, speaking of many, many different cats. He nodded thoughtfully and announced, I can smell cats. White Storm and Lionheart exchanged amused looks. There will come a time you are accepted into the clan, when you will know each cat's scent by name, Lionheart meowed. Follow me. He led the way nimbly down the boulders to the bottom of the ravine and pushed his way through a thick patch of gorse. Rusty followed, and White Storm took up the rear. As his side scraped against the prickly gorse, Rusty looked down and noticed the grass beneath his paws was flattened into a broad, strong-smelling rock. This must be the main entrance into the camp, he thought. Beyond the gorse, a clearing opened up. The ground at the center was bare, hard earth, shaped by many generations of paw steps. This clan had been here a long time. The clearing was dappled by sunshine, and air felt warm and still. Rusty looked around, his eyes wide. There were cats everywhere, sitting alone or in groups, sharing food or purring quietly as they groomed one another. Just after sun high, when the day is the hottest, is a time is a time for sharing tongues, Lionheart explained. Sharing tongues? Rusty echoed. Clan cats have always spent time grooming each other and sharing the news of the day, White Storm told him. We call it sharing tongues. It is a custom that binds the members of the clan together. The cats have obviously smelled Rusty's foreign scent, for heads began to turn and stare curiously in his direction. Suddenly, shy of meeting any cat's gaze directly, Rusty looked around a clearing. It was edged with thick grass, dotted with tree stumps and a fallen tree. A thick curtain of ferns and a gorse shielded the camp from the rest of the woods. Over there, meowed Lionheart, flicking his tail toward an impenetrable-looking tangle of brambles. It's the nursery, where the kits are cared for. Rusty swiveled his ears toward the bushes. He couldn't see through the knots of prickly branches, but he could hear the mewing of several kits from somewhere inside. As he watched, a ginger she-cat squirmed out through a small gap in the front. That must be one of the queens, Rusty thought. A tabby queen and a distinctive black markings appeared around the bramble bush. The two cats exchanged a friendly lick between the ears before the tabby slipped inside the nursery, murmuring to the squealing kits. The care for our kids are shared by all the queens, meowed Lionheart. All cats serve the clan. Loyalty to the clan is the first law in our warrior code. A lesson you must learn quickly if you are to stay with us. Here comes Blue Star, meowed White Storm, sniffing the air. Rusty sniffed the air too, and was pleased that he was able to recognize the scent of the gray she-cat. A moment before, she appeared from the shadow of a large boulder that lay beside them, at the head of the clearing. He came, Blue Star purred, addressing the warriors. White Storm replied. Lionheart was convinced he would not. Rusty noticed the tip of Blue Star's tail twitch impatiently. Well, what do you think of him? She asked. He kept up well in the return journey, despite his puny size, White Storm admitted. He certainly seems strong for a kitty pet. So it is agreed? Blue Star looked at Lionheart and White Storm. Both cats nodded. Then I shall announce then I shall announce his arrival to the clan. Blue Star leaped onto the boulder and yelled. Let all those cats old enough to catch their own prey join here beneath the high rock for a clan meeting. Her clear call brought all the cats trotting toward her, emerging like liquid shadows from the edges of the clearing. Rusty stayed where he was, flanked by Lionheart and White Storm. The other cats settled themselves below the high rock and looked expectantly up at their leader. Rusty felt a rush of relief as he recognized Gray Paw's thick gray fur among the cats. I can't read, I swear to God. Beside him sat a young tortoiseshell queen. Her black-tipped tail tucked neatly over her small white paws. A large short gray tabby crouched behind them. The black stripes on his fur looked like shadows on a moonlit forest floor. When the cats were still, Blue Star spoke. ThunderClan needs more warriors, she began. Never before have we had few apprentices in training. It has been decided that ThunderClan will take in an outsider to train as a warrior. Rusty heard indignant mutterings erupt from the clan cats. The Blue Star silenced them with a firm yell. I have found a cat who is willing to become an apprentice of ThunderClan. Lucky to become an apprentice, caterwauled a loud voice above a ripple of shock that spread through the cats. Rusty craned his neck and saw a pale tabby cat standing up and glaring defiantly at the leader. Blue Star ignored the tabby and addressed all of her clan. Lionheart and White Storm have met this young cat, and they agree with me that they should train him with the other apprentices. Rusty looked up at Lionheart, then back at the clan, to find all the eyes were on him now. His fur prickled, and he swallowed nervously. There was a silence for a moment. Rusty was sure they must all be able to hear his heart pulsing and smell his fierce scent. Now a deafening crescendo of caterwauling rose from the crowd. Where does he come from? Which clan does he belong to? What strange scent he carries? That's not the scent of any clan I know. Then one yell in particular sounded above the rest. Look at his collar! He's a kitty pet! It was the pale tabby again. Once a kitty pet, always a kitty pet. This clan needs wild-born warriors to defend it, not another soft mouth to feed. Lionheart bent down and hissed into Rusty's ear. That tabby is Longtail. He smells your fear. They all do. You must prove to him and the other cats that your fear won't hold you back. But Rusty couldn't move. How could he ever prove to these fierce cats that he wasn't just that? The tabby continued to jeer at him. Your collar is a mark of the two legs, and the noisy jingling will make you a poor hunter at best. At worst, it will bring the two legs into our territory looking for their poor lost kitty pet, to fill the woods with his fitful tinkling. All the cats yelled in agreement. Longtail went on, well aware that he had the support of his audience. The noise of your treacherous bell will alert all of our enemies, even if your two-legged stench doesn't. Lionheart hissed into Rusty's ear. Do you back down from a challenge? Rusty did not move, but this time he was trying to pinpoint Longtail's position. There he was, just behind a dusky brown queen. Rusty flattened his ears, narrowed his eyes. I'm doing good. Hissing, leaped through the startled cats to fling himself onto his tormentor. Longtail was completely unprepared for Rusty's attack. He staggered sideways, losing his footing on the hard-baked earth. Filled with rage and desperate to prove himself, Rusty dug his claws deep into the tabby's fur and sank his teeth. No subtle rituals of swiping and boxing preceded this fight. The two cats were lost in a screaming, writhing tussle that flipped and somersaulted around a clearing at the heart of the camp. The other cats had to spring out of the way to avoid the screeching whirlwind of fur. As Rusty scratched and struggled, he was suddenly aware that he felt no fear, no exhilaration. Through the roaring of blood in his ears, he could hear the cats around them wailing with excitement. And Rusty felt his collar tighten around his neck. Longtail gripped it between his teeth and was tugging hard. Rusty felt a terrible pressure at his throat. Unable to breathe, he started to panic. He writhed and twisted, but each movement only made the pressure worse. Retching and gulping for air, he summoned all his strength and tried to pull away from Longtail's grip. And suddenly, with a loud snap, he was free. Sorry, I was holding my breath while talking. Longtail tumbled away from him. Rusty scrambled to his paws and looked around. Longtail was crouching 3 tail lengths away, and dangling from Longtail's mouth, Rusty saw his collar, mangled and broken. At once, 𝓧𝔁 leaped down from the high rock and silenced the noisy crowd with a caterwaul. Rusty and Longtail remained fixed to the spot, gasping for breath. Clumps of fur hung from their ruffled coats. Rusty could feel the cut stinging from above his eye. Longtail's left ear was badly torn, and blood dripped down from his lean shoulders onto the dusty ground. They stared at each other, their hostility not yet spent. 𝓧𝓁 stepped forward and took the collar from Longtail. She placed it on the ground in front of her and meowed. The newcomer has lost his collar in a battle for his honor. 𝓧𝓁 has spoken its approval. This cat has been released of his hold of the two-legged owners, and is free to join ThunderClan as an apprentice. Rusty looked at Blue Star and solemnly nodded his acceptance. He stood up and stepped forward into the shaft of sun on his sore muscles. The pole's light blazed bright on his orange pelt, making his fur glow. Rusty lifted his head proudly and looked at the cats that surrounded him. This time, no cat argued or jeered. He had shown himself to be a worthy opponent in battle.